Howdy, howdy, and welcome back. It's yet another Workshop Wednesday, and this just happens to be one of those months where we have 5 Wednesdays, so we are doing 2 strategy sessions, and this is the second strategy session for the month of December, which also, coincidentally enough, happens to be the very last session of the year of 2020. So we figured, okay, let's just talk about 2021 and what changes will be coming our way as digital measurement professionals, aka measurement marketers. First, welcome. If this is your first workshop, my name is Chris Mercer. I actually do go by Mercer. Everybody calls me Mercer, and I'm out there on podcasts and talks. Maybe that's how you found about us. Maybe you found us through some of the content that we share on platforms like CXL Institute or Digital Marketer, Social Media Examiner, or even Measure Summit. Maybe you are already a member, whether a free toolbox member of measurementmarketing.io, or you're a part of the Measurement Marketing Academy and improving your measurement marketing skills there. However you found us, we are glad that you are here. It's our job to help people just like you learn how to use all these crazy cool tools that are changing constantly in the world of digital measurement. And we use the framework to do that, the measurement marketing framework. Really 5 key steps. It's always planning, thinking about what questions we're trying to answer, what information will we need to collect those answers, ultimately what actions will we take based upon those answers. Then you do your build where you're working with like Tag Manager and Google Analytics to store those answers to collect the information you need so you can get the answers. Then report where you actually display said answers. Then you start to forecast, and ultimately you measure against your forecast, and that's what helps you to actually know where to optimize, where to actually improve things, because you're going to know what's working and what's not. Now, with all of these workshops, and this is of course no different, just make sure you focus on that one new thing, one new concept, one new key way of hearing something, especially with this one, because let's face it, I'm going to guess. I don't want to put this in your brain because maybe some of this will be brand new to you. But my guess is you've probably heard about a few of these things, but it's just a matter of, okay, 2021 is the year we're going to have to figure out how to deal with some of this stuff. And so maybe in this workshop, you get some things around how to think about what these big changes are and how we're going to communicate with stakeholders, with our bosses, with our teams, with our clients, even with ourselves as measurement marketers. All right, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Strategy session. What changes 2021 will bring to digital measurements? Now, we're going to go ahead and dive right in, but of course, it's a strategy session, so we're going to bring up our favorite teaching tool, which is Lucidchart. And then we're going to do this a little bit differently because I wanted to sort of just talk through some of the big changes. First, and I'm going to do this one here. So first, we're going to pull up numbers. We'll look for numbers. Now, why numbers? Because numbers, let's bring up this one. Why not? Actually, this looks like a party. Let's do this with numbers. Numbers will be more important than ever in 2021. And I know that from a measurement marketing standpoint, you might be like, well, duh, of course numbers are important. Yes, they are. But here's what's happened. There has been a trend of, how do we say this? I'm just going to say new. This isn't going to be let's use this one, new. So there's a trend of new marketers who have come to town, right? So we've got all these new marketers. Now, this doesn't mean I just learned a course on internet marketing and I'm a marketer, though of course they're there. I'm talking about massive corporations, right? Massive corporations, massive businesses that are finally saying, hey, you know what we should do? We should get online. And why did they have to do that? They had to do it because of coronavirus. That was the big event that pushed everybody online. So here's what's happened. From a measurement marketing standpoint, you got all these corporations. And again, I say corporations, but really we mean all businesses. Let's just call it business. And specifically, like we at measurementmarketing.io, we really help the small businesses. That's kind of my personal passion. I love helping entrepreneurs and owners understand numbers. But what's happened is there's a lot of small businesses forced to go online, forced to open up a Shopify store, forced to figure out Etsy or eBay. God help them, a Wix site. Right? Setting up Wix sites to try to get things running, try to get online. The very first year you do that as a company, you're just happy that you have an internet presence. But then what becomes more important to you as time goes on, as you figure out things like, oh, there's a thing called traffic and I need to figure out how to get that. And we're going to, start to, put some paid media into this and get people into our store. And all of a sudden numbers become increasingly important. So 2021 will be the second wave of 2020. So 2020 was this, everybody kind of going online and core brick and mortar businesses or businesses that really didn't focus on digital, but they kind of like had it because they had to, because it was cool. But now it's necessary. It went from cool to necessary in 2020. It was essential. And so now that they're online, this is the year they figure out all the tech stuff and try to get their presence up. 2021, they're going to start asking questions about numbers. Now, that's the big trend. That's a big overall trend. And that's just better for us as measurement marketers, people that understand how to use analytics and Tag Manager and measure to get answers. We are in the sweet spot when it comes to this trend, because that's what our jobs are going to be. People are going to be looking for people like us all the time. And, in our case at measurementmarketing.io, people will be learning this stuff and really, really wanting to learn it. So that's going to help us too. So that's a big trend, but be aware of that and just be ready for that onslaught, because there is a big market coming your way. Now, let's talk about kind of beyond this whole, like, the market's going to get much bigger and it's going to be much more focused on trying to figure out stuff. Part of the reason that, was just the fact of the newbies coming into the market, right? These people who are now focusing on digital marketing, but now there are things like cookies. Cookies have been an issue. I'm sure you've heard. Maybe you've heard about the, laws. Let's just go ahead and put in law. I'm sure there'll be a nice image for law. So there we go. So we've got laws coming down, right? Privacy laws, data privacy. So all of this stuff that's starting to happen, and specifically right now, and I am positive, we will end up doing some sort of workshop on this in the Q1 of 2021. But this whole concept that's going on right now or this whole battle really is what it is between Facebook and Apple that are coming through, right? So Facebook and Apple are in the middle of this mess where it's like, even though it's kind of Google colors, Google's kind of involved too. But really this whole concept that the tech is changing, right? Cookies are going away. They just are. Everybody knows this. It's just a matter of time. We can't get used to them. There will be lots and lots and lots of other ways to store information. So just do not be worried about that. There'll be lots of other ways to do it from a technical perspective. So the idea of storing information is not going away. Just cookies are going to go away. Well, a lot of the world was built on cookies. So all that tech becomes less and less, right? We're not going to be able to use this as much. And this is okay. I'm okay with this, right? Because tech evolves. That's just what's going to happen. This stuff over here where you've got, GDPR and California came out with theirs. I'm positive there's going to be more privacy coming out from other countries and other states in the US as, this battle continues, which it will, right? This is just the trend. Data is going to be firmly in the hands of the user, not in the hands of the company anymore. So what happens? Why does this matter to us as digital marketers? It's going to be harder to measure stuff, right? It's going to be a lot harder to measure stuff. There's going to be a lot of user journeys that you're not going to be able to measure. You're not going to be able to rely on Facebook anymore to tell you what a good audience is. You're not going to rely on Google probably as much. They're not going to be penalized as hard with some of the changes that are going on with Apple right now. And again, I know I'm not going to get into too terrible details with that. Suffice it to say, Apple's really locking down all this stuff, with the exception of Apple. They want Apple to be able to have access to a bunch of stuff, but they're not letting other people do that. And Facebook doesn't really own any platforms. Nobody goes on the Facebook browser to browse the web. So Facebook doesn't have a lot of ability, and they're going to get really hit by this, which is why they're freaking out so much. Google, on the other hand, owns a lot of platforms, so I think they're gonna be okay. However, this is going to be a continuing trend of privacy getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and just really being like, hey, you cookie consent, the whole tracking and monitoring, like tech is going to make it impossible for you to do it in ways that maybe you're used to doing it before. And it's going to get, and I'm going to hesitate to say this word, but it's true. It's going to get harder in that there's going to be more pieces involved in it. You have to think it through a little more. So what happens is this whole concept of privacy, like how are we going, it's good to know like this is going to be a thing, but that's probably not new for you, right? People have been talking about that for years, but it's really coming to a head now. So 2021 will be back. It's going to be this. I love this image. This is so perfect. Planning will be your way out. You have to get good at planning. And we talk about it all the time here at measurementmarketing.io. We've got multiple win courses on it because it is that important. You have to get incredible at planning now more than ever. So what are some of the ways, that you can get to work in this new world, right? To kind of figure out your way through what this new thing is going to be. If you can't rely on cookies, you can't rely on tech, well, you really got to plan things out. You really have to go through what we would call the measurement marketing pillars, going through that planning, building, reporting, forecasting, and optimizing phase. And you got to get used to using possibly new tech, things like APIs that are out there. So little things that connect the dots, right? Where instead of you're relying on a piece of script on the page to come through, maybe you're using an API and you're sending information from the server, right? So I'll bring up a little server thing here. You're doing what they call server-side tagging. So some of that might come into play. Again, this is not something it's like, okay, right away, we're going to have to start doing server stuff. Don't make any massive moves yet. This is a whole about being aware of things. But some of the signals, instead of coming from the browser, are going to start coming from APIs and coming from the server, right? So the server is going to send directly to Facebook, or the server can send directly to Google. Like, there's ways around this. And I hesitate to use that word around because it feels like you're just getting around the walls. And some bad players might, right? To be honest, they might. However, I think that'll be short-lived. It won't matter because privacy laws are a thing. Like, that's just going to be more and more a thing. And if you treat your users right and you're not trying to get every single, you're just being ethical when it comes to measurement. Like, it's not about knowing what somebody's, very specific details of very specific, personal identifying information, all that stuff. You don't need to know that. You just need to know what people are doing and how they're operating through the site so that you can say, hey, this is working like it's supposed to, or no, it's not. I need to adjust some things. So that's going to, 2021 will be a big, big play in planning, because you're going to have to start thinking, like, how are you going to get this information in there? Now, as we go from this into this world, I should say, you're going to be getting a lot of questions about what's working and what's not, and what people are, trying to get used to, and what they've been used to, I should say, versus what they're going to be having access to. And I'm going to call this little section, when I was planning it out myself, the mouse and the elephant. Really, this is micro to macro will be the next trend. And so this is where you're going to be sitting there. Let's use this guy over here. So what's going to happen is, when it comes to data, everyone's been very, very used to this, getting very minuscule amounts of data and making sure they've got all the little bits and pieces, and, because they could, why not, right? That's what people are supposed to do. I get it. I did the same thing. Everybody has. However, what's starting to happen because of all this stuff, right? Cookies, and the tech is getting harder, and the laws are, making things difficult, and the whole tech world is changing things, and just less and less pieces are available. Now, it's not like, they're harder to measure. Some of those pieces will never be back. You just won't be able to measure them. So you're not going to have all these little micro pieces, which means what? Well, if you don't have as much as this, you really got to start focusing on the bigger picture, the macro stuff, because you're not going to have every single nitpicky piece. And here's the best part about that. You do not need to. You never did. Neither did your clients, neither did your boss, neither did your teams. You don't need every single little detail. This is always a misnomer. This is a big problem in measurement, in my personal humble opinion. But it was a really big problem, because we thought, we can get all the data from everything, and all that data actually means something, but it really doesn't. What matters is trends and patterns. At measurementmarketing.io, you will hear in our trainings constantly, the truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. The truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. That's what's going to matter in 2021 more than ever, because that's how you tell macro, is you look at the trends and you look at patterns, and you're able to say, based upon this happening here, like this one domino here, this domino will be about, roughly twice the size, based on the trend. Right? And you can just sort of measure for this. You can do it with percentages. For those that want to learn how to do that, look at the workshop that we did, which was on the finding the right results. Just search for finding the right results, and you will see it. Where we talked about how to find the trend, how to use percentages, and how to actually start predicting things, because this is going to be an important skill, because we will be the oracles of our companies. Right? Whether it's just you by yourself, a solopreneur who's doing this on your own, or you as part of a larger team of an organization, we will be the oracles, because we will be the individuals who can look at the numbers, figure out the conversion rates between the numbers, find the percentages, focus on these trends, and then say, okay, now we can start to literally predict the future. And I'm not speaking out of, this is what I do. I've done this for years. Our company, we predict revenues and results, and we've done it for going on 3 years now. We've done this, and I do it by week. And I do it by week, a year in advance. And that's how I've always done it. And this is just with this company. I've done it with other companies. Trends are amazing things. And I don't have to have each individual piece of tiny little detail, because the trend, right? The truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. That's the part that's useful. These little micro things, these little nano bits, you don't have to have every single bit. You can go dark. Some of the things you don't have to have every single piece of data, and it's okay. You'll still see the trend. The usefulness will still be there. So that'll be a very important thing to focus on for 2021, not just for you, because maybe you know that as a practitioner already, but to communicate to your team, to communicate to your bosses, to communicate to your clients, so that they don't freak out when they can't see all the little mice. They have to focus on the elements, right? The trends, bigger things, trends and patterns. All right. Next up, I think that the idea of, I'm going to put this, let's just put as control. Let's see what pops up here, because I think this is a good word. We're going to have to get used to a little more control. Let's see. You know what? Let's do, this is not really at all useful when I thought it was going to be. We'll just do this. What the heck? Control. So we're going to need to have control over the data. So that's what we're going to need. We're going to need control over our data. Actually, you know what? I will do this. It'll be like a little remote control. I think that makes sense. So we need to have control over the data more than we ever have before. So we talked about the trends of privacy becoming a bigger and bigger thing. Laws, more laws will come down. More laws will come down. More clarifications from old laws will come down. There will just be more, not less. It will just get worse, not better. Tech will start clamping down more, not less. It will get worse, not better when it comes to that stuff, right? And so what's going to start happening is you cannot rely on third-party data anymore. Meaning Facebook, meaning Google. You're not going to be relying on those platforms. So you got to start collecting your own data. So when it comes down to building relationships with your users and measuring what they're doing, you're going to have to be the one that's in control of that stuff. Excuse me. I'm obviously on a roll. I'm starting to lose my voice already. So you have to be in control of the data, which means as measurement marketers, it's our job to set up our measurements so that as individuals are going through the site, they are triggering certain events, and those events are actually being measured accordingly, which brings us to a massive change for 2021 that you will absolutely have to mess with. And I'm going to copy this again because we're going to bring it back. Planning this time because of the way that events work. This is a long shot. Let's see if they have anything for hierarchy here. Let's see if I can even spell hierarchy. So, you know what? Close enough. So you get the hierarchy. You get this little concept. Let's see what this is even about. Maybe it's a customer journey type hierarchy. Oh, there you go. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You get the idea. The hierarchy is a pattern, right? So you get like things that kind of fit together, all these little pieces and parts that fit together. When it comes to analytics in the past with our platforms, they have had hierarchy, right? So we've had things like, oh, we could do page views. And this was a pre-built thing. It was like, oh, here's a page view, and this is what a page view does. And then you had events that could be in Google Analytics, right? So at events, and the event had the category, and it had the action, and it had the label, right? So that was a thing. And then you had e-commerce, right, coming through, and e-commerce was a specific thing. And you had all these different items that were coming in, but they were fixed. They were already defined little things that were triggered by analytics, right? By Universal Analytics. Well, essentially, now remember, Universal Analytics is still staying around, and you need to keep using Universal Analytics for 2021. However, the new kid on the block, which everybody should know about at this point, especially if you've been watching our workshops, is GA4, Google Analytics 4. Now, why is GA4 such a big deal? Well, obviously, it's the platform of tomorrow, not necessarily today, but it is definitely the platform of tomorrow, and it will certainly be the platform toward the end of 2021. So you're going to have to really start getting used to it if you're not already. But the big difference in GA4 is there is no longer anything around like, oh, here's a page view, and here's a this, and here's a that. There is just an event. Now, there are different names for events. There's an event that could be a page view. There's an event that could be an e-commerce transaction. There's an event that could be a lead capture. There's an event that could be purchase or whatever, right? So there's all these different types of events. But what's happening is now you have events and then you have identifiers. So everything kind of got flat, right? So everything went to this, I'm going to call this little parameter. So everything's gone to this flat world now. So all the what is it? The flat earthers, is that what they're called? So you'll love this because the world is flat, at least when it comes to a measurement perspective. So what's happening is instead of events that are sort of pre-built, you got all this cool stuff coming through, you actually have an event that you will have to define that is important to you in your own customer journey for your own customers. And then under that event, you will have details that you will need to make sure are defined for that event so that you can spit all this stuff back into yet another platform. And let's just call this one, hypothetically, it's not really going to be hypothetical because that's exactly what it's going to be, Data Studio or something equivalent thereof you're going to be doing. And you'll build reports at a Data Studio. Maybe you'll do some analysis as well. But that's the idea, is you're actually going to be spitting all the stuff back. So GA4 collects all these events. All these events are going to go in a Data Studio. You're going to build nice little reports with all that fun stuff. But in order for all of this to happen in 2021, you have to get really good at planning and thinking through what are the events that are important to me, and then what are the details, the parameters of those different events that I need to pass through to make sure that a tool like Google Analytics 4 needs or has. Right. Incidentally, Facebook Analytics, you can do the same thing. It's the beauty of Tag Manager. So you can make sure both platforms have that information. And then, of course, you can pipe it into Data Studio and start building reports. But that'll be a big, gigantic change. When it comes to a true change of 2021, where I would bet money you're going to have to change how you think about something, data structure is what you're going to have to change, because the data structure of the world is going very flat. It's not these nice, cute little bite-sized pieces that you can plug and play anymore. It's just, here's an event, it's generic, it has 25 different parameters to it, and you can identify up to 25 different things about this event. Which events are important to you? I don't know. We've come up with a few, like they name generic ones like page views and things like that, but maybe a page view is not an event for you. If you have an app, it's probably not, right? And so you can really start using Google Analytics 4 in highly customizable ways. And this is how we're going to start using it. And of course, the courses that we teach as we go through, we've got a course coming out later in 2021 for Google Analytics 4 Beyond Basics, where we're going to talk about that, about actually using it for this highly customized answers, where you don't need to, again, because the whole point is you don't need to track each and everything that's out there. It's not even important that you have all of that. It's important though that you know the trends and you know the patterns, and that is going to require planning. And that's what the challenge has been in the past, is we really haven't had to plan. I think it's always been a good idea. We've always taught you should plan, but a lot of people haven't, because it's been so easy to just turn things on and start collecting data and looking at reports and being confused by reports and wondering why we can't get insights. Well, it's because they didn't plan in the first place. However, now, if you don't plan, none of it's going to make any sense at all. It's going to be practically not even useful at all. People won't even use the tool because it'll be so ridiculously hard to get through. However, with a little bit of planning, a little bit of adjustment, when you think, okay, the world is flat now when it comes to data, and it's just a bunch of events, and an event is an event and is an event, and one event is not better or worse than another. An event is just an event. An event's got up to 25 different things that I can describe about it. Okay, now what events do I need to collect? What micro-conversions do I want to know? What story do I want to know? What customer journey steps do I want to know? So that I can build a report in Data Studio that can tell me what's going on and is this thing working like it's supposed to. So but it's going to be a hugely powerful tool, because GA4 has modeling, has a little bit of AI action to it. It's built for a world that goes dark. Remember this whole concept of the world going dark and privacy and cookies and everything else? GA4 is built for that. So there's going to be a massive trend in using GA4. And initially, it's going to be a total cluster, because everyone's going to try to get into GA4 thinking it's like Universal Analytics. They're going to try to use it like that because they don't realize the world is flat. And you will know that the world of data is now flat, and you have to figure out how to restructure your data so you can get ahead of the curve. And again, you can have more intelligent conversations with your clients, with your boss, with your stakeholders, with your team, or just with your own company as you're going through it. All right, so let's go ahead and continue this. So, remember, flat's going to win for sure, right? Go flat, and that's going to help you win. And then finally, and we touched on this, so let's just do this. Let's see if there's a cool image for AI in here. Oh, there we go. So the magic of AI. AI will be a big, gigantic thing, because conversion modeling is going to be something you will need to start taking advantage of. Google will already be helping you with that with tools like Google Analytics 4, because it's got that built in. But the idea here, and this is, again, it's going to go back to this. I think this is the big trend that I promise you will need to focus on, is this whole planning concept. Because even though AI is there, and this is going to be the biggest letdown, I think, for a lot of people that don't know, not people like you and I, because we know better. But there's going to be a lot of people who are let down by this promise of AI and machine learning, because they literally think they can just turn on Google Analytics 4 and then send a bunch of traffic, and then Google Analytics 4 is going to be like, hey, you know what you should do is order more blue sneakers. It's not going to be like that, right? It's not going to be like that, because they have to plan. They have to plan for the world being flat, right? The world of data is now flat. So they have to plan, they have to collect the right information. You're going to help with that, of course, right? That's what we are here for. And this concept of feeding the beast, because that's what this whole AI is all about, right? We got to feed the algorithm. And if you don't feed the algorithm correct information, it is my favorite computer term ever. It's one of the first ones I ever learned, the whole GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out. And people do not talk about that enough when it comes to algorithms. They just think, oh, they've got an algorithm, so it must be awesome. But if you feed that algorithm, easy for me to say, if you feed that algorithm junk, it will spit out junk results, which you cannot use. And you as a measurement marketer have got to understand that. We have to know and help our clients, right? Help our teams, help our companies, help yourself if it's your own company, to say, okay, I got to make sure that the data that I'm feeding the algorithm, that is Google Analytics 4 or Facebook or Google Ads or whatever it is, I've got to make sure those algorithms are being fed the proper things, so that those AI bots that are out there, those little minions that are just, begging to help us out and promising they can do all this cool stuff for us, so that they can do the job we want them to do. And that requires, again, planning for the flat earth world when it comes to data, right? Data's going flat. Now you think about all the events, what are the microconversions, what are the things that are important to you from a measurement perspective, right? So that we can tie it all together. And of course, we tie it together with the pillars. So we would focus on the plan. We would then do the build in GA4 and Tag Manager, et cetera. You get the reports all set out in something like Data Studio, so you can start getting answers to everything you want. And then as you come down, it's like, okay, now I've got the right data coming in, the AI start to help fill in the gaps where maybe it can do some conversion modeling when it understands how most people use desktop to mobile conversions, and it understands that, how people are doing that. It can then begin to model how others might do that if it loses a connection, which it will, because the world of data, again, is just getting tougher and tougher to measure every little thing. But it's not important that we need to. I think there's a big giant freak out about that is just not necessary. It is not important that you have every single possible detail. You do not need that. And this is the big thing. I'm gonna add this now because I'm thinking about it. So let's just say statistics. I don't know if there's gonna be something fun or not for this, but sort of. All right, so let's use this. Statistics. This will make a comeback. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out there and go learn a bunch of formulas, because I don't think you really do. I think it's still just basic math, and it's not a big deal. You do not have to overcomplicate this. There are those of you who are data scientists and data analysts who absolutely can and should, because that's your job. As a measurement marketer, we're not quite as deep in the numbers as that. We don't necessarily have to be, and most of the time you're not working with that much data where it's necessary. However, the idea, the spirit of statistics will make a comeback in 2021 because of people like you and I. Because we're going to have to help people understand there is a thing called sampling. When they do a survey, they don't survey every single possible person. They take a sample group, and then they survey that sample group, and then they extrapolate out, they model out how the larger population will respond to a particular survey. By and large, they are mostly right. Right? There are, of course, times, you all know the famous times where they're wrong, because there's things called outliers, also a statistical thing. So, but you start to realize, like, okay, just because I don't have every single tiny little piece of data that I might have had before, you probably didn't even have it all, but let's say you did. Even if you don't, it's okay, because you'll have at least a statistical sample, a large enough sample size where you can still make reasonable predictions and start to forecast your future. And I do it all the time personally. So I know it's a thing. So it's not hard to do that. You just got to know to do it. And of course, that's the whole concept of measurement marketing. All right. Before we officially wrap this up for 2020, because this is really December 30th, so I couldn't get closer. I couldn't do this on the 31st because it's Wednesday, 12:30. I want to introduce you to what is coming up next week for our members. So for members, whether you're a Toolbox member, a free Toolbox member, or a Academy member, I want to introduce you to what will be the new members area that you will be seeing within a week. That's my goal. Within, let's say, 10 days. I'm going to say 10 days. So in here, you'll see the new dashboard with the courses, the workshops, the support, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to give you a very, very brief tour. The courses now, so again, if you're an Academy member, you have access to all these courses. These are all organized by date, so you can see the most recent course that was done. You can see by topic, so in this case, setup or Google Analytics 4 basics, whatever it was. You can see when your last activity was, and you can also see when the course was last updated. So you'll see those, because we got to keep these courses pre-updated as we are doing. In fact, we've got Tag Manager Basics that's being recorded again. So this was last updated July. We're re-recording this one again because preview mode changed. So that'll be recorded this month. But you can go through here and you can see all the different courses, dashboards and reporting, funnel tracking, whatever else, Data Studio, all that stuff's back here. Strategy stuff. There's going to be a lot of strategy stuff in 2021 that we're going to focus on, because most of the time it's not about finding the number. That's a skill you can find and you can figure out, and you can do that relatively quickly. But knowing what to do with the numbers and how to make the numbers bigger, that's a strategy thing. So we're going to be talking about that stuff back here. You see all the courses already back here. They work pretty much like a regular system does now. Again, it's totally different from the existing members area. So again, hopefully this will be good for you as well. But you'll come down here, and then the lessons will be broken down to lessons and then ultimately modules. Those aren't quite there yet. They're all just lessons. We haven't broken them down into smaller bits, but we're breaking down these into smaller 5 and 10 minute videos. So with time, you'll see that as well. So that's just the Winner Circle stuff with our courses. Then you've got the on-demand workshops. This is the workshop I was telling you about earlier in this one, where I said, hey, go to Knowing Your How. Go search for that one. This is one where I talk about trends and percentages and all that fun stuff. So make sure that you do that. This also has the on-demand workshop library. This is a whole separate, it's another 200 some odd workshops that have all been edited down. So we have very specific workshops. So you can come in here, you can search for them, type in, goals or user ID tracking or something like that. You're going to need to set up user ID tracking for 2021. You need to know how to do that stuff. And as you're coming down, down, you see the actual workshop. Again, complete. It's outside of the courses. This is in addition to the courses. These are just workshops that are very focused on specific results, but they've been edited down into student editions, make it a little easier, come with additional resources and related workshops. And of course, you've got groups, what we call Winner Circle. So this is the community. So you'll see back here, we've got different groups that are being situated. So if you want to get questions from people, other measurement marketers, whether myself or other instructors that are back there, or your peers that are back there. So some people are better at SEO than we are. So why not ask people back here? Because they're going to know that stuff. We will create groups as needed for this to keep the conversation going. But it's been a very popular request. So we are bringing groups in here. So you're going to have that in the Winner Circle groups. And then you've got your toolbox resources. So this is the regular toolbox, changed just a little bit. We kind of organized by different topics and type. And these are the ones, of course, that Measurement Marketing exclusives. So you see all of those tools that are back here. These are the free ones, by the way, for the toolbox membership. If you're not yet part of that, make sure you do that. Then the Ask an Instructor. So this is now officially inside the members area. So you can send us over videos and screenshots. It goes to an instructor. You can see status as the instructor is actually answering it. Once they answered it, they'll notify you. You'll see notifications up here. So all of that becomes awesome, because sometimes you're going to have questions over how to get this stuff done. And that's okay. That makes total sense. You're going to need to do that. So why not have an instructor that you can bounce an idea off of, or send a video and say, why isn't my goal working? Or how do I get this user ID tracking set up? Or, hey, here's my dashboard. Any suggestions? I'm not sure what to do with it. Send us all that stuff. Our instructors send back videos and screenshots, and it's all going to happen through this little portal. And then, of course, your settings, where you can change everything, upload your avatars, all that fun stuff. So that's the new members area. And I wanted to just kind of show that to everybody who's been with us all for 2020, because for some of you, I've been talking about that over and over again, but it's getting really close. We are 10 days out, maybe even less, if all works so well. All right. So with that, we'll officially wrap it up. What was your one thing from our little adventure today, from our last Workshop Wednesday? Hopefully you got a number of one things for 2021. Now, if you want more workshops like this, next week we are doing a What's New workshop. It's the first Wednesday of every month. We do What's New, where we take a look back at the previous month and we go through all the updates that came out. So you can get caught up with Tag Manager updates and analytics updates and whatever else happened with Data Studio, in this case for December of 2020. Which is not quite officially over, so maybe they'll release something in the next couple of days. Who knows? But either way, we will cover it next week. If you want to have that workshop, be notified about it, just make sure you subscribe to this channel. Hope it's a little bit fun, a little bit entertaining, and you learn a thing or two. So make sure to subscribe. What do I say? Smash the like button. I don't know. You don't have to smash it. Just click it and share it with your friends. So if you know somebody who should have this channel in their YouTube, make sure you let them know that, because I'm all about growing this channel. We just recently started making these workshops public. We've actually done this for years, but we just made them public earlier this year, and the channel's grown quite nicely. So we're going to try to keep that going. Again, just let us know if you have any questions, and just tag other people in. I need to take a look at it. And we mentioned the toolbox earlier. So these are just some of the tools. You already saw some of those in the toolbox area. If you want those, again, it is completely free. Just go to measure.tips/ww, create a toolbox membership is what it's called, and it'll get you your login and your password completely free. Just our way of giving back. You get all the toolbox stuff, and you, of course, get access to the most recent workshop that's back there as well, just for convenience, so that you have it. And finally, if you do want the courses, if you do want the on-demand workshops, if you do want the Ask an Instructor stuff, the Measurement Marketing Academy is going to be what you want. Measure.tips/get-academy to get that. And with that, we will wrap this one up. This has officially been Strategy Session. What happens? What changes in 2021? What's going to happen when it comes to World Digital Marketing? Well, now you just found out. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.